You're going to be the moderator?
I'm the moderator. That's right, Frank. So, Frank, when did you hire out?
I hired out in 1965 in the mechanical department.
The New Haven Railroad.
New Haven Railroad.
Where did you work?
I worked in New Haven passenger yard known as the Light Rip. I started out as a coach carpenter, which don't exist anymore. That's because the coaches were still made of wood when that labor grade was up. And then I didn't own a job, so in the winter I was either going to get laid off or look for work. And I would go in a diesel shop and cover laborers' jobs or whoever was out, sick or injured. And then Penn Central came in, and I got scared and I left. I came back in 1970 and started in the track department. That's where I met Arty White, my very good friend Arty White. And we worked together. I'll tell you a story about me and Arty. If you know Milford at all and Devon, we were doing snow duty. And we had a 3-gallon can with a long pipe on it with a wick on the end. We light the switches. You'd have to scrape away the snow where you think the orifice was on the gas heater and turn on the valve and light it. But we were too lazy to shut off the valves, so at the end of the season, we would just have one big main valve on the tank on. And this one particular snowstorm was a heavy snow, and the gas was building up under the snow on a 4-2 crossover, which is probably 3/4 of a mile away from the shanty. And Arty had lit a fuse, which is a flare to some people, and clicked the snow away from where the orifice was, went down to light it, and the snow built up under the gas built up under the snow and blew Arty up in the air. I mean, it looked like a cartoon. All his arms were stretched out, burned the hair off his face, came down, boom! I'm never so scared in my life. I mean, me and Arty, we got a lot of years together. I loved the man. I was so scared, I thought I was going to have to carry him back to the shanty, which was a long walk in deep snow. But luckily, he pulled himself together.
Railroad's a dangerous place, isn't it, Frank?
Yes, it is.
And when you guys were out in the track, you had 4.5 feet of a safety zone. And if you stepped out of that 4.5 foot, you could get killed by the train on the opposite track. You always had to keep that in mind.
We both know people personally, like we know each other, that have gotten killed in our... I know in my 30 years, I know at least 3 men that got killed personally. One in our own gang. Well, you were with us at Tyler, right? Where Richie Massenberger got killed?
Yeah.
You were with us. Yeah, our foreman. We had a tamper with us. The old tamper had a shadow board, and then it had a lights that struck the shadow board, and that was to keep the level of the track, to bring the track up to level. It acted like a string line on the level. And when you got to a grease box, you had to stand in between the tampon heads and hit a button that picked up the tampon heads. You step out, and the machine will go over the grease box, and you step in, hit the button, and go down and start tamping again. Well, this is known as the Y&O switch. We call it the Y&O switch. And Richie went in there, did his job, picked up the heads, and when I went by, put the heads back down. Well, what the operator couldn't see was the train coming around the curve, because the shadow board was in work position.
Yeah, he was taking a runoff. He was taking a runoff my eye.
So, Arty said he was taking a run off the high there. And anyhow, Massenberger got killed that day. And in those days, you had the tamper and 4 men behind it picking up the ties that the tampon heads would knock down. The operator.
The down ties. See, the heads would come down, hit the ties, and then he would skip that. Then we had to come behind them, pick it up with a lining bar, poke it up. In other words, tamp it up, put the stone back underneath it.
Yeah. So, Arty, when did you hire out?
68.
68 on the New Haven Railroad.
Yeah.
And where were you when you hired out?
New Haven. I started out in New Haven. I got hired May the 8th, 1968. And they had what they called was a brush gang. The brush gang was you go along the side of the tracks and the brush.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah. And
Tough job in the summer, I'll bet.
yeah, it was only summer work.
Only summer.
Only summer work.
And did you get laid off in the end of the summer?
No.
You never got laid off.
I
Frank,
never
did
got-
you get laid off?
I got laid off once. I don't remember the year. It was a whole winter. There was me, Miller Sullivan, Mike Shea, and one or two other guys, and they managed to keep us. We were up Cedar Hill. That's when the railroad was. What would they call us up there? The east. The guys on the east.
East Class.
If you worked up Cedar Hill, we were at different routes to them. Anyhow, we spent about 5 or 6 weeks gauging ties to the frost. In other words, the ties were rotted out, and we were using frost spikes, which are longer than a regular track spike, and we were spiking to the frost. And then the supervisor couldn't keep us any longer because he was making work for us actually, and we got laid off. I was off about 6 weeks.
Okay. And Arty, you never got laid off.
No, I never got laid off. They had the supervisor, his name was Eddie Armour.
But you had
And what he used to do, he used to switch you. He used to switch you, put you from place to place. In other words, he hired you so you could keep a job.
Okay.
So he sent me to, I was in New Haven, and he sent me to Milford, the old Devon station down there. And that's where I went. And from there, from Milford Station, from there, then I went to Devon. That's when they had the trailer, remember, Frank?
Yeah.
Then I went from there, yeah. And the rest is history, up and down. And then I finally landed a job. In New Haven. Then they moved everybody out of New Haven and placed everybody in Bridgeport. And that's where I was until I retired.
Until you retired. What year did you retire?
2003.
2003. So
35 years of service.
wow, 35 years of service, and you've been out 20 years. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So tell me something about an interesting thing that might have happened. Were you involved in a derailment on the Maybrook line? Re-railing?
It was over there at the junction at Derby.
At Derby.
Derby Junction, that bridge over there.
It goes over to Housatonic and the Naugatuck River.
No, it was just,
Was that the washout, Arty? With that curve?
yeah, right there. You could come in from the street right there at that bridge, yeah.
There was we called it the Christmas tree farm or tree farm, right?
Yeah.
That's how we got in.
Yeah.
That's a cemetery now,
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it was the biggest wash I ever saw. You could have dropped a boxcar in there, right?
Yeah, right.
And it used to be a freight yard.
Yeah, because they used to have the homeless when we went there. After that bridge was washed out, because it was one on one end, the main line going this way, and when the Maybrook line going that way, then they used to have the homeless people sleep on the other end of on the Maybrook side. They had the tent,
Like a tent city.
Yeah, a couple of tents and stuff in there that they had.
What year was that? Do you remember? Roughly?
70s, right?
It had to be the 70s. Yeah, it had to be the 70s. The 70s, mid-70s.
Mid-70s, the tent city, Derby,
Yeah.
Connecticut. Wow.
Yeah, right.
There was still a lot of traffic back then.
Yeah,
There was 4 jobs going to Maybrook a
right.
day each way.
Right.
Freight job running up and down the Waterbury.
Yeah, right.
Sponge rubber was open there, and
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gone now.
grass. Yes, all that is all gone now.
I think I'm
No,
willing to
what's
say,
up, B.F. Goodrich?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think I was one of the last guys to bring a machine down from Danbury, and we went through the Terryville Tunnel up to Hartford. That's when I did the job in the tie job, and I had a tamper, and we came down through Boxford. Remember Boxford? Were you with us then? I don't remember.
no.
Well, we came down through Boxford. Boxford was in the old days they had a coaling tower there, and they watered the steam engines there.
Yep, water
Huge
tower.
curve, yeah.
Big curve, red station.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
when
all gone.
It's
It was
all
gone when I was there.
Yeah, I saw
We
it.
came down through Indian Wells.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Indian Wells State Park.
yeah,
Yeah,
That's right. That's right. That's right. And so on that day when you did that, you went on the Waterbury,
Yeah.
and you went past Waterbury.
When up Waterbury,
There was a switch to the right.
now Waterbury Station, it doesn't exist.
Beacon,
It exists,
Beacon.
but not for Metro North. But there is track.
Beacon Falls.
Beacon Falls.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in Waterbury Station is where actually Metro North ends, and then they have some small New England railroad.
The Naugatuck Railroad.
Naugatuck Railroad,
Yeah,
yeah.
Naugatuck, yeah.
They go up there. And then there's spur lines up there that are small
What was the name of that
railroads.
little small railroad was up that way?
Pardon?
What was the name of that little small railroad was up that way?
Well, now it was Pan Am for a while in Springfield
Are you talking
Terminal.
about
Now it's Genesee.
Guilford Transportation?
Guilford, that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, that's what we're talking
Mr. Mellon?
about. Mr. Mellon, yes. Yes.
Railroaders like Mr. Mellon.
Yes, a lot of railroaders like Mr. Mellon.
He put a lot of them out of work.
Yes, he did. That's a story for another day.
Yes, it is.
So, Arty, tell me about the derailment, how they brought out the hook.
Yeah, the hook. The hook came out, and I forgot that guy's name. He knew his job, but he just yelled everything. Hey,
Who was that, Irving Beller? Was that
No,
the supervisor,
No,
the rec train boss?
yeah, he was. I forget his name. He was a little short guy, but he had a voice.
I don't
on him.
remember his name. I know who you mean, but I don't remember.
You know
That's a
what I mean.
long time ago.
Yeah, and
About 50 years, close to 50 years.
oh boy, everything he say, he be yelling like he's a wild man. Hey, you over here, come on, you over here, let's get this up over here. But he knew his job. He got his job done.
Brick Masters had they were all like that. Even the one we had up in New York. Remember when we had that derailment up in Mount Vernon, where one train ran up on top of another one?
I do remember that incident.
Yeah, I don't remember the wreck master's name, but he was another piece of work like that.
Yeah,
like
they
to
sent
yell
us
and
home. Yeah, they
scream.
sent us home.
Matter of fact, I worked on that derailment.
You did?
Yeah.
They sent us home because they said it was in our territory.
Well, that's how I got to go up. Is when the New York guys were tired out, they couldn't use them anymore. Then they called Bridgeport, and they asked me, and I think Tommy Izzo was my helper, but Tommy didn't want to work. And I went up there, and one of the things I had to do was when there was one train on the car on top of another car, but it split the rail, and the rail was like a horseshoe around the car. And they brought up a crane, and they put the outriggers out, and then they put blocking between the outriggers and the rail, and then they asked me to cut the rail.
That was Monroe Shell, right?
Yeah, Mount Vernon.
Yeah, Mount Vernon,
Yeah,
Monroe Shell, the junction. Yeah,
You're right. It's got to come back, you know. So anyhow, so I was a little reluctant, but I did. I got in there and cut the rail, and when they made the end of that cut, the crane went. I thought that was the end of me. I thought there was going to be two Francapuzos.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's another.
Then they had
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
they had the what we call the sun king, right? That's when the rail, too much heat gets in the rail and it goes up. And we had this guy, Harry. You know Harry. What was Harry's last name?
Harry Albin, Dirty Harry. You mean the welder?
Yeah, Dirty Harry.
I
the
can't think
welder.
of his last name.
Yeah. Well, anyway, they had this long torch for him to cut the rail. And they told everybody to stand clear because you don't know where the rail is going. So Harry was cutting the rail. Then all of a sudden, he backed up and he stumbled and he fell backwards and the rail was still cutting. When he cut the rail, went just like that. But, you know, everybody was in the clear, but, you know, luckily everybody was in the clear.
I seen one worse than that. And Mike Selmont was the welder, and I was the helper. And we're at Waterbury. And just before Waterbury Station, you know where Route 8 Bridge is?
Yeah.
There's a switch there at the bottom of this Route 8 switch. And somebody had vandalized the lock and thrown the switch against traffic. And the engine went on the ground, and the rail got caught under the engine and was in a horseshoe. Now, they had me and Mike come up and chain the rail to the ties, dig out whatever ties are still in the ground, solid, chain it. And then I said to Mike, you want to cut it or you want me to cut it? He said, no, I'll cut it. I said, okay. So now they put Mike Shea down in the street. There's a bank there. You got the track and a bank down into the street, and then there's an actual bank down there. And they had Mike Shea down there making sure no traffic got in the way. And Mike cut the rail, and when he made the last part of the cut and the rail sprung, it just busted them chains. And the good thing the chains were on there because they absorbed the strength of that, or he would have caught it. I mean, he cut that thing, and that was another close call we almost had out there.
Wow. When you was on that, when they had that derailment, Arty, and they got the hook out there, and then they had to straighten out the track. That was the main line track. So for a while they used the siding. Is that about correct?
Yeah. Yeah, we use a.
You guys.
It's all right.
We use the. We was using the main line. Then they. No, they was using. I think they was using the side track because the main line was out. The bridge was washed out over there at Derby Junction. You remember that?
Still in the story, he'll come.
At Derby Junction, the bridge was out.
Oh, I know, Turkey Brook Bridge, right?
Yeah.
The bridge of Turkey Brook.
No, Derby Junction.
That's on the other side of the
No, on this side.
This side.
You know, like going up 34.
Yeah.
All right, going up 34 in Derby.
That's where the curve is in the street. You come down 34, you make a sharp left. That bridge there, the Iron Bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a little fire station across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Over there.
Wow. What about snowstorms? You guys, they call you out to clean the interlockings, to keep the iron.
That's what we were in the surfacing game at the time, and we were that's our job. Was our job in the winter, cleaning the switches out and
The interlockings.
yeah, the interlocking at Devon.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
That and the Y. Matter of fact, remember the blizzard? Were you with the blizzard? We were stuck there 3 days. We couldn't get out. We couldn't get up the hill. Matter of fact, I tried to take the gang bus up the hill, almost went over the side. Remember, broke the fence,
right.
and that was it.
Was that the blizzard of '78?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were and the snow got so. This is what happened.
No, let's see, the bridge, the blizzard of 78, I was working up at East Clash Yard.
You weren't with us?
No, not the blizzard
I
of
know it was
78.
me, Miller Sullivan. I don't know if it was Shay. I can't remember where that was with us that day, that weekend. But that was brutal.
The blizzard of 78, yeah, I was up at
He was up in East Clash Yard.
the East Clash Yard.
And what did they do
That
then?
wasn't that. That's another blizzard I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it had to be.
Yeah.
So
'Cause
the
this,
blizzard of 78, I was working up at the Clash Yard.
I don't swear to year. I'm not good at years.
Yeah, that's when the Ella Bronco was the governor. She closed the state down.
Yes.
Right.
And what did they do when they shut the state down? Did they hire a bunch of people just to get the state reopened, and they send some of them down to the railroad?
Well, she shut the state down, but you had the plow trucks out.
Yeah.
Trying to make a way for the highways and stuff like that. After she shut it down, and we had to get. She had the road traffic, we had the rail traffic that we had to get clean.
Yep. Because they had a lot of freight sitting around. The rail place was shut down
And
for
Yeah.
they
days.
used to turn the engines at Devon because the turntable was out in New Haven.
Yeah.
And what they did was some of the heaters were out on the Y, and every time they brought an engine up, we used to stay up in the tower, keep warm, and they used to, we used to have to go down, clean out the switches on the Y, and come up the east side, and then come down the west side and head back to New Haven. And that's how they turned the engines. And the snow got so deep after a while that when we climbed up on the snow, we were even with the doorway into the locomotive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, it was brutal.
That was,
That was really something.
yeah.
I'm going to stop momentarily.